Hey, so I woke up today and I had my iPhone, the
Whoa!
original iPhone, right?
To set your alarm on your
And
original iPhone?
and I noticed this is starting to happen. Like it's like
Oh,
I
it's
guess it's a
bulging.
spicy pillow.
Oh
Is
no.
that the spicy pillow thing? What they,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what that is or if it was just like dropped and I'm kind of scared to squeeze the thing because I don't want it to like
Yeah.
catch fire.
Has it been turned on in a while?
No, for it hasn't
Yeah.
been turned on in years. Like, cause I don't even have a 30 pin
True.
power adapter. I guess I
Yeah, me
should
either.
try to get one,
I
but
don't know. That
that's
sounds
kind of
crazy. That sounds a little dangerous.
I'm kind of bummed, man, because I was like I've had this thing for so long, and I always use it as like a prop in
Yeah.
videos. But now I'm kind of like worried. Is it going? Am I going to walk in here one day and everything's on fire? I'm like,
Yeah. How does
there's.
battery physics work? Like, I thought it would need to be like turned on for the battery to start warping like that, or what? Just like over time, something like
Just
happens in
over
there.
time, I think just the I don't know. I don't want to sound stupid, but it's just like I just over time I've seen there's a whole subreddit on spicy pillows, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then
I
they
know. I've
just
definitely heard of
show
that term.
yeah. So and that's when the battery starts to like expand, and then you see stuff happen like this, and if you like puncture it, it can catch fire.
Yeah. That's where it gets real
Which
dangerous.
yeah. So
But I wonder if like plugging it into power, if that's better or worse for it. I don't know.
I
I
hate
guess
to
let
just
me
throw it
know.
away. Yeah, I hate to just toss it, but I'd rather lose this than
Than the whole
everything
studio.
else.
I mean, that's
So
crazy. You still have it. You can
yeah,
always pick up another dummy unit or something, or one that doesn't work for a prop.
yeah, I could,
For
or I
sure.
could just open it up and remove the battery, I guess. And I don't know.
Also true. I remember
We'll see.
I used to, not that one, but I used to mod like the iPhone 4 or 5. It was a 4, like between the 4 to the 5S. Those were like easy to mod, I remember. Because it was just like
Mod?
two plates.
Like, what'd you do to them?
I would I had a little business in high school where I replaced people's rear like panel. I changed the colors of the iPhones for people, replaced batteries for people. Yeah,
I could. See,
I would go on like on these random Chinese websites and bulk order. Like the quality wasn't amazing, but it worked. It fit, Like I would make purple iPhones, and then the craziest I got was adding a light to the logo on the rear. I remember to like mimic the
I
old
do.
Macs.
I remember that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that
never
was a
did
big
it. I
one.
don't think, but I wanted to. I remember wanting to do that.
Yeah, and then they changed the iPhone 6 completely changed everything, and I was like, whatever. I guess this is it. That's all she wrote. Ah, the good old
Yeah.
days, for sure. But yeah,
Yeah.
but
So
now let's fast forward. Go from the first one to one that isn't even out yet. Software wise.
yeah.
But yeah,
So
hit me with it.
iOS 19. So I guess my whole so I was at NAB a couple of weeks ago
Yeah.
and talking to our friends at LumaFusion about their app and just I was looking at their presentation because they did a brief presentation and I was just sitting there like kind of stunned at how incredibly powerful that app is. And it was just like, I mean, I knew it was powerful. I've used it obviously from almost day or before day one, right?
Yeah, literally.
And I guess it's just kind of shocking how much you can do with this app now and how they've just continuously iterated and relentlessly just keep pushing forward on this app to the point where it is like ridiculously powerful. Like it's ridiculous like some of the stuff you could like she was doing the presentation and it was just like you have speed ramping, you have like all adjustment layers and all these more advanced things that you would find on a pro level NLE, so to speak, but you can do it right on an iPad or a phone for that matter. And
Yeah.
it's just like,
Yeah.
and I don't think a lot of people even scratch the surface of what Luma is capable of doing.
Like I've
Like
used that
it,
thing for 7 years, and I want to say I probably use like 20 to 30% of what it can do. You know? Like I feel like I sometimes get a little bit more advanced here and there, but I feel like you can go crazy with it if you're
can
willing
go
to take
crazy.
the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like here's the thing. It's like it takes a while to build the workflow for Luma. Like it takes a while to just kind of get a groove and then have the workflow. But if you dedicate the time to establishing a workflow, I think you can really do some pretty incredible things with it.
Yeah.
So
Like,
shout out to Luma.
Not to say it's not user friendly, because it is, but it isn't like I feel like a lot of these editing apps today are like very playful and like very not even Gen Z-ified to make it easy to understand, and like there isn't a lot of
whimsical.
freedom with it. That's a great word for it. Yes, whimsical. Versus Luma has stayed true to the kind of the true editor, and it's again like a pro level editor that takes a little time to learn, just like a real true editor would. But once you learn it, sky's the limit as to what you can do with it. You know?
And what's cool is that the people who are making this, like, they are editors. So, like, and it shows, like, just in the decision making and stuff. There are some things I would like to see updated, like,
For sure.
particularly the voiceover interface. I think there's just so many opportunities for that to be better. But by and large, this app is ridiculously great. And it's probably the best, pound for pound, the most impressive app on the entire App Store, in my opinion.
I agree. Because, I mean, it's a one-time purchase. Depending on, like, if you get it on Black Friday, I think it'll go as low as, like, $20, you know? But, like, $20 to $40, and you get pretty much everything. They have some in-app purchases and also a subscription model now, I think, with Creator Pass. But if you just want to pay for it once and have it forever, it's like Final Cut Pro. Like, you don't have to continue to pay for it if you don't want to. Yeah.
And it's like the only editor of its caliber on the iPad. There's no other option. Like, you're not going to find Final Cut Pro on the. I mean, did I say iPad? I meant iPhone. You're not going to find Final Cut Pro on the iPhone. You're not going to find Blackmagic, DaVinci Resolve on the iPhone. Yeah. You may find some of those, like you said, those more whimsical, like CapCut, I think. But as far as like a real powerful NLE, this is your only option for iPhone. And it also runs on the Mac, for that matter.
It does.
Yeah.
And, you don't need an iPad Pro to use it. You can run it on the entry-level iPad. Albeit, iPad Pro will obviously handle more intense things a little faster and a little bit more efficient. But if you have, like, a 5-year-old iPad that's just sitting around and you want to learn how to play with it, just download it.
Yeah.
And it works.
So with all that being said, I guess the point of this conversation is like, you have these powerful apps, but it still feels like there's a lot of bottlenecks with iPadOS in general and just the iPad in general. So there was a rumor that Apple would be working on a macOS-like upgrade for iPadOS 19 that includes a menu bar and Stage Manager 2.0. Now, this is funny because we had this conversation, I don't know what episode it was, but I specifically called out the fact that the thing that's missing is a menu bar, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's the big thing that's, to me, hindering the ability to use the iPad as gracefully as it could be used.
I agree. There's definitely a few other things, but that one would just immediately make it feel like you're on a real desktop class operating system. Because you take that little menu bar for granted. You use it a lot, whether it's with shortcuts or physically tapping on them, and then also like your diagnostic stuff on the top right with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and things that you can download off the App Store for plugins. So there's a lot that can be added to a menu bar on the iPad that would make you feel like you have something that, again, isn't just like a whimsical little throw around window manager, which is kind of what it is right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like I said, finger gymnastics that has to occur to do a lot of the things with the iPad, and the menu bar would go a long way to fixing a lot of those things. It won't be perfect because Stage Manager itself and the windowing system is still really clunky. You can only have a certain number of windows on screen at once, And when you overlap a window, it automatically adjusts the little auto layout thing. And then you can't move windows off screen or to the side. They'll just like rubber band back into view. So those are like a couple things off the top of my head that just make Stage Manager difficult to use or not as user friendly. What are like your biggest beef with Stage Manager if you have one?
I think it's the fact that the apps are still kind of coded for iOS, and I think that's a big deal with it. So it's like Apple's trying to fit, like they don't really know what to do with Stage Manager in terms of the windowing and how apps react to the windowing, because obviously it seems like they don't want to put just Mac OS on the iPad, and that would fix a lot of issues to have like a Mac OS mode, which is what this rumor's kind of saying, where like you put your iPad onto the Magic Keyboard and then boom, you're into this new Mac OS like mode. But I think that's kind of the biggest issue. It's these apps are optimized for iOS or iPadOS, but that's what it is. So they're trying to act like single window applications in this multi-window view, where like the apps probably aren't coded correctly or with that in mind, or to optimize that kind of experience. And normally if you resize your Stage Manager window, you can see the app change from iPhone app to iPad app to landscape iPad app to vertical iPad app, all with you just like moving from the top right corner, making the iPad app larger. So it's like, I think it just is confused at the end of the day, and it's just not fully optimized for that experience.
Yeah, it's just clunky. It doesn't feel like, and we've had this conversation numerous times before, so I'm not going to regurgitate all that. But the point is, it looks like Apple is aware that there's some issues, and that the iPad has a lot more headroom to grow, especially from a software perspective, because the hardware is already incredible, but the software is always, it just feels like you're allowed to go so far, but there's like this thread that's like holding you back.
Yeah.
It's preventing you from really getting, I don't know what it is, man, but it's just like
everything just feels a little bit more tedious. And
it's like super tedious.
I'd force myself to figure it out, and I still think Mac OS is more efficient. I have my Mac Mini. I'm using my Mac Mini for this because the iPad wouldn't be able to handle this situation, right? Continuity camera, working off the iPhone, having multiple things plugged into it at once. It just can't really handle that. So I need Mac Mini. I need Mac OS for some things. But, Stage Manager has come a long way. It's a lot better than when it was back at iPadOS 16 when it was announced, because that was even clunkier. But there is a good amount that I still want out of iPadOS, like audio source management, being able to play 2 audio clips at once, a clipboard manager. I mean, same could be said for iOS. And again, just kind of this, give me some sort of a Mac OS Lite on this thing, just so I can get that experience and get it working that way. Like, I want to be able to use my iPhone continuity camera on my iPad. Simple things like that.
Yeah, I just want windows that like I can actually like not only intuitively control, but do so in an efficient manner. Like, it just feels like you're like, and I've used this analogy before, but like running through water. You know how slow it is to try to run through a pool? Like, just running through a pool is exhausting. Yeah. And that's kind of what it feels like to use iPadOS versus macOS. And it's just like, it's there, but it's just not quite there yet. And it's frustrating because it's like, man, I see the potential. Like we just talked about Luma and all its potential. I see that. And I think Luma itself and other apps like it are being held back by this
the water, the current.
Yeah, it's just the water, man. It's like, it literally is like running through water. So I think apps themselves would be so much better if the OS experience was more efficient and it allowed you for more fluidity and it wasn't so much friction involved. So good news in some respects. Hopefully this rumor proves to be true, that we will see a menu bar and we will see an updated Stage Manager. So what do you guys think?
I'm ready for it. And I think one last little thing with iPadOS, I think part of the reason why Apple doesn't just go full in on the iPad Pros because I feel like part of them wants to be able to do it across their entire lineup, right? So whatever they want to change in iPadOS needs to be able to be done on the entry level iPad. I think that's always what they think. Maybe I'm wrong by thinking that, and I just don't think the entry level iPad could run the same things that the iPad Pro could run. Obviously, just from a sheer power situation. So
Yeah.
that could be
And there's the fact that they don't want it cannibalizing. I guess I don't know if I agree with that because I don't know. People who want a Mac, but
yeah.
I feel like
The iPad Pro price point is way higher than a MacBook Air.
Yeah.
Way high. You can get 2 entry level MacBook Airs for the price that I paid for this iPad Pro.
And the MacBook Air is unequivocally a better computer, like for getting things done, and it's just a much more. What'd you call it? It's just, it's more capable. Like,
yeah.
You mentioned things like just simple things we take it for granted, like being able to change the audio input and output quickly, being able to see, like how many times have we plugged in a microphone and you just have no clue
if it's going to work or not.
What if the app sees it? Because every app has its own like little interface to where it determines whether or not it's using this microphone or not. Whereas if it was a system-wide thing via the menu bar, it would be so much less clunky. And the same thing goes for cameras, like external cameras or anything basically external. It's kind of like a crapshoot. You just don't really know. There's nothing that it's like, hey, I see you plugged in a microphone. How would you like to use it? From the system level perspective.
Yeah.
It's just you just don't know what you're going to expect. And there have been times when I've been recording, I thought I was recording with my external mic, and it wasn't even using the microphone.
100%. And that's happened to me a lot too, especially even on the iPhone, because it's basically the same thing. It's a guessing game. It's like, all right, is the camera app going to recognize this microphone, or is it going to freak out and I'm going to have to redo my entire voiceover or something after the fact? And that's happened multiple times. So you have to like really make sure that it's being recognized in whatever app that you're using. Versus on the Mac, I literally just plugged it in, I jumped onto this call, and it knew exactly that this is the mic that I wanted to use.
Right. And there's something to be said about that, because it's like, with your confidence, if you've been tricked once, you're recording, and like say you recorded a 30-minute voiceover or whatever the case may be. Granted, yes, you should verify that it is working, but if you've been burned like that once, it's kind of hard to get. It's hard to get over that. Like, there's just something mentally. It's like I just don't feel as at ease using this as I would a Mac, and it just feels like it's one of those things where it's just like more friction involved. So
let's hope, man. I'm definitely hoping for some good things with iPadOS 19. At least some visual changes. I'm sure they're gonna get, because iOS is also supposed to get a visual overhaul, so it'll at least look and feel different a little bit. Same way that Siri looks a little different, even though it's the same thing. The power's there. The versatility is there. There's nothing quite like it, and that's why I always post about it on Twitter, and some people in the tech community are funny. They're like, how many what is it? Troll bait iPad content pictures are you gonna post in 1 week? And then people are like, it can't do this, it can't do this, it can't do this. But I was like, it works for me.
So all right, so this argument about the iPad, because some people say, hey, the fact that I can't do as much on an iPad is actually an advantage. And I feel like that's a mental gymnastics thing as well. Like, people just, like, when you buy something, you will, especially if you pay a lot of money for it, you will do whatever it takes to try to justify the cost of that. Like, and even if it's like objectively not as efficient as a Mac. Something like iPad fans, like in their head, they're like, well, actually, that's a good thing because I can't
focus in on one application.
Yeah,
because I
it allows
can't
me to
multitask
focus.
correctly. I've made that argument before.
I have too, and I mean, I guess in a way it is true, like, because multitasking, let's be honest, is a lot of more of a distraction than. I don't really believe in multitasking that much. Like, obviously, there are some things that it's great to have two windows, and especially if you're like copying text from one to another, or
Yeah.
there's legitimate use cases. But the idea of having like 7-8 apps open and then you're just like bouncing from one,
That's too much.
mentally you can't. Your brain, at least mine can't. Maybe it's just me, but
Like I have Slack open next to me right now, and there was like a message that came in, and every like part of my being is trying not to look at it, and that's just one application, you know.
yeah.
So I know what you mean.
But I mean, do you subscribe to that notion that it's not as it allows me to focus better? Is that kind of why? I understand you say you like the iPad because it's fun.
Yeah,
It's fun to use, and I get that. I truly do get that. But realistically, are you at a disadvantage by using an iPad? Whereas, like, if you
probably, I think probably I am. I will say that, especially with LumaFusion, once I use it, like when I open up LumaFusion on my iPad, I know that's all I'm doing. You know what I mean? You know, maybe I'll open up a couple apps like the Files app in the middle of it to transfer stuff over or manage that stuff, but I know that's all I'm doing. But I mean, the same could be said. I could just open up an entire full screen window of Final Cut Pro on a Mac and probably get the same idea. It's just I've dug myself in this hole so deep that there ain't no coming out now, you know? And it has gotten easier to get my stuff done, and the way that I've set up my flow, like we said earlier with LumaFusion, is, I want to say, as efficient as you can get, especially since I'm using the Apple ecosystem to do a lot of my stuff. So I think for me it works, but it took a long time to get there, and it probably would have been easier, less expensive, and less time consuming to just get a entry-level MacBook Pro, get Final Cut Pro, and run with it like that. Because I'd still be able to use the iPhone. I'd still be able to do all the stuff that I'm doing with AirDrop and Thunderbolt cables and stuff like that. And there is a disadvantage to external display support and not being able to have two monitors or not being able to use a clamshell mode or all that stuff with the iPad. So I know the hole that I'm in, and I'm kind of happy-ish that I put myself in that hole, but I would never recommend to somebody that has like $1,000, like, get an iPad over a MacBook Air. I could not
you would
justify
not.
that.
Interesting.
I mean, if it's like a kid going to college for the first time or somebody that needs a laptop for work for the first time, there would be way too many hurdles for me to be like, you know what, this is the way to go over a MacBook Air.
Yeah,
You know, and I don't want people to be pissed about $1,000 purchase.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to the idea of why not just put macOS on the iPad as an option? Like, why not just have dual booting capability? Because one of the reasons I love the iPad is the form factor. I love the fact that I can detach it and I can just have just this slab of glass and aluminum, and like using it on, like, in certain situations, it is by far the better form factor. Like, if you're sitting in some situations, it's just better. Like, it's just better to be able to hold that and not to have a keyboard attached. And when you need a keyboard, you can't attach it. So I think it's a great form factor. But I also think that it would be cool if you could dual boot. Like, if there was some sort of
100%.
hybrid. If there was some sort of hybrid where you could run Mac OS on the iPad, or if there was a Mac OS app, right?
Almost like a virtual kind of situation, virtual machine.
You
Or
tap
like
the
we said
little app.
earlier, like LumaFusion works on MacBooks because they're running the same chip. It's like, why not do the same thing in reverse? You know what I mean? Like, keep iPadOS open, but give me Safari for macOS to run on iPadOS. It should work, right?
Yeah. Or just give me an iPad or a macOS app. I tap that app and it opens up into macOS. Done. Like, that's, and then when you don't need it, you close the app and you're back to iPadOS.
Yeah, because I love my Apple Pencil. Like, I'm in Affinity Photo making thumbnails. Like, I've started the hover feature some way, somehow. It's gotten into my flow a little bit to see, like, where I'm about to erase something or where I'm about to add something. So that stuff about the iPad being so versatile is definitely the best selling point, and I keep going back to that when people are saying, "Oh, it's worse than Mac OS." But again, you know who you are if you want a desktop experience, or if you want to experiment a little with iPadOS and use all the different accessories and pretty much, I mean, overpay for a lot of stuff, but it's still nice for sure. And these iPads last forever, forever. As long as you don't split it in half physically. And this iPad Pro, if I really wanted to, it could last for a normal person 10 years, I bet.
Yeah, you might just have to replace the battery, but other than that, it's like, yeah. I mean, they're great devices, man. And that's one of the reasons I want to use it. I want to use it more because the form factor, I enjoy the form factor more than my Mac.
Yeah.
Than any this is my favorite computer. Like the iPad is my favorite computer from a I guess I want to say philosophical standpoint, or like a certain standpoint.
I see what you're saying.
You know, it's like this is my favorite computer, but I can't use it like that because it's just not quite capable. But if I could, I would. Mm-hmm. So, anyway.
iPad, baby. Yeah, let us know below. What do you guys think when it comes to the iPad, and what you would want out of the iPad to change in order for it to be not just your philosophical favorite, but your actual usable favorite?
For sure.
Yeah.
Switching gears a little bit, and we'll keep this brief because we're already 25 minutes in. But all right, so some pretty huge news came down today as right before we started recording. Epic Games claims victory as Apple's sanction for defying a court order over App Store rules. Epic win. Apple forced to give developers almost free reign to link out and avoid paying Apple's 30% cut. Apple addresses App Store ruling as Fortnite eyes return. Wow.
That's a huge deal. It's crazy that it kind of went this way. Because I think, I don't want to misspeak or anything, but I think in... wait, can you still hear me? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
No, like the EU kind of already did this with Apple. They made it a little easier. Well, obviously they allowed for the third-party app stores to be able to be installed into iPhones to kind of bypass the App Store commission stuff and the tax. So I guess it was a matter of time that it came to the US. And like I mentioned, I'm kind of in the middle with it all. I get both arguments. I get both sides. I get the capitalism side. I get the taxation side where it's like they have a monopoly on it. But I don't know. It's just crazy that it actually happened. So, I mean, to quickly explain, what happened is basically Epic got in trouble with Apple's policies and kicked off the App Store because they were sending people off the application to make purchases on Epic's website for Fortnite, for example, bypassing that 30% commission that Apple uses for everybody, right? So then Apple was like, see you later. You can't do that here. And then Epic just won, saying that now apps are again allowed to send people away from the application to make those same purchases and avoid that 30% tax that Apple gives in the App Store, bringing all that revenue back to the developers, supposedly.
Yeah.
Interesting. Lots of things.
So this quote, this is really stuck out. So Judge Yvonne Gonzalez Rogers said, to hide the truth, Vice President of Finance Alex Roman outright lied under oath. Internally, Philip Schiller had advocated that Apple comply with the injunction, but Tim Cook ignored Schiller and instead allowed Chief Financial Officer Luca Maestri and his finance team to convince him otherwise. Cook chose poorly.
It's tough.
I mean, there's a lot of layers to that. So, like, they saying like an Apple VP is lying under oath, and that Philip Schiller, who he was vice president of worldwide marketing for years, now Apple fellow, that he tried to say, "Hey, let's just comply with this order," and then he was overruled. It's just there's a lot of layers there. And it's still too early to say how this is all going to play out. No doubt Apple will continue to try to appeal this and fight it. But as of now, yeah, they have to comply with this ruling. So,
yeah, and I mean, I wonder if it'll go into effect like immediately. Like, can people search in the App Store and find Fortnite already? And I I know like a lot of subscription service, like content streaming services, they were doing this also, where they would either they'll give you the option like, hey, yeah, you can sign up for the membership through the App Store, but it's going to be this price. If you want it for cheaper, just click on this link and sign up for it like on Netflix.com, and save that 30%. They were literally putting the Apple tax on the consumer through the App Store, which was interesting. And it worked. I mean, I remember I ended up going, when I signed up for like Disney Plus, I went through Disney's website because I didn't want to pay the Apple tax. And yeah, that's kind of what was going on.
Yeah, and it says the court has now barred Apple from charging its commission on external purchases and ordered it to immediately stop interfering with developers' ability to communicate alternative payment options to users. So this looks like it goes into effect immediately. So now they can say, hey, click this link instead of going through the App Store. Click this link to get it from us and avoid that tax. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. But man, Apple's taken some L's recently.
Man, here's hoping that WWDC wows everybody and brings us back into their good graces.
Yeah, it's almost like a lot of unforced errors, but we'll see how it plays out.
Apple Intelligence, all the news that they're also partnering with like Google for their AI assistant coming up and stuff like that, which I don't really know much about. I just saw some headlines. But hey, Apple, I guess they are this juggernaut that could, I guess, pivot and figure it out at some point. But we'll see. I think there's a lot riding on the WWDC 2025, I think. At least for, like, from a PR perspective in terms of how people view Apple.
Yeah, Tim Cook's taken a lot of heat recently. It's going to be just interesting to see how this all plays out. Like a year from now, what will the executive team look like at Apple? But interesting times, and we will see how this all plays out. But no doubt, Tim Sweeney over at Epic is celebrating right now.
Yeah, his Twitter posts are hilarious. They're a little intense. God.
Yeah. So that's it. I mean, there's obviously other stuff, but let's just we'll keep it to that for today. And we welcome your feedback, though. Like, please let us know what we can do better. What do you like to hear us talk about? Any kind of feedback, we welcome it with open arms for sure.
No, absolutely. And we're back in the swing of things, baby, every week.
Yes,
we'll get it done.
Yes, indeed. So again, new wallpapers should be available today. Yeah. Fire. So if you're if you want new wallpapers and all the full backlog of wallpapers, you can become a member at YouTube. YouTube.com/9to5Mac. Click join.
Mm-hmm. I think it's worth it. There's like hundreds of wallpapers now, which is cool.
That many already? Wow. Okay.
For sure. Shout out Michael Bauer.
Yes. All right, man. Everybody. Well, we'll see you next week.